Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast. This is a calm place where you can listen to natural English and improve your listening skills step by step. Today, we are going to talk about something that confuses many English learners. Some English words look simple, but they are actually difficult to use correctly. You might know the meaning of the words, but when you try to use them in a sentence, you suddenly feel unsure. You start asking yourself questions like, should I say or tell? Do I use make or do? Is it look, see, or watch? These words are very common in everyday English, but the small differences between them can make learners feel confused. So in today's episode, we will slowly explore 3 groups of words that many learners struggle with. We will talk about say and tell, make and do, and finally, look, see, and watch. Let's start with the first pair. Say versus tell. Both say and tell are about speaking. They describe the action of expressing words, but the way we use them is slightly different. We usually use say when we focus on the words that someone spoke. For example, she said she was tired. In this sentence, the focus is on the information or the message. Another example, he said he would call later. Again, we are focusing on the message that was spoken. Now, let's look at tell. We usually use tell when we mention the person who receives the information. For example, she told me she was tired. Here, the sentence includes the listener. The speaker gave the information to someone. Another example, he told his friend the story. In this case, the sentence shows who received the story. A helpful way to remember this is very simple. Say focuses on the message. Tell focuses on the listener. Let's compare 2 sentences. She said she was happy. She told me she was happy. Both sentences are correct, but the second one includes the person who received the information. This small difference helps English sound more natural. Make versus do. Now, let's move to another pair that often causes confusion. Make and do. Both words talk about actions, but they are used in different situations. We usually use make when something is created or produced. For example, I made a cake yesterday. In this sentence, the cake did not exist before. It was created. Another example, she made a beautiful painting. Again, something new was created. We also use make with things like plans, decisions, and mistakes. For example, I made a decision. He made a mistake. Now, let's look at do. We usually use do when we talk about tasks, work, or activities. For example, I did my homework last night. Homework is a task or activity, so we use do. Another example, she did the housework this morning. Housework is also a task. So a simple way to remember this is this. Make is used for creating something. Do is used for tasks and activities. Let's compare 2 sentences. I made dinner. I did the dishes. The dinner was created, so we use make. Washing the dishes is a task, so we use do. At first, these differences may feel difficult, but with listening and practice, they will become more natural. Look versus see versus watch. Now, let's explore the third group of words. Look, see, and watch. These 3 words are all related to using your eyes, but they describe different types of visual actions. Let's start with look. Look means directing your eyes towards something. It is an intentional action. For example, look at the sky. The speaker is asking someone to move their eyes towards the sky. Another example, look at that beautiful painting. Again, the person is directing their eyes towards something. Now, let's talk about see. See is different because it is not always intentional. It means that your eyes notice something. For example, I can see the mountains from here. You did not necessarily try to look for the mountains, but they are visible to your eyes. Another example, I saw a bird in the garden. Your eyes noticed the bird. Finally, let's talk about watch. Watch means looking at something carefully for a period of time. It is often used when something is moving or changing. For example, I watched a movie last night. Watching a movie takes time, and you pay attention to it. Another example, they watched the football game together. A game is something that moves and changes, so we use watch. A simple way to understand these words is like this. Look means directing your eyes. See means noticing something with your eyes. Watch means observing something over time. Let's look at one more example. Look at the sunset. I can see the sunset. We watch the sunset together. Each sentence uses a different word, but the situation is similar. The meaning changes slightly depending on the word. Many English learners think the hardest part of English is learning new vocabulary. But often the real challenge is learning how to use common words correctly. Words like say, tell, make, do, look, see, and watch are very common in everyday conversation. Understanding the differences between them can help your English sound more natural and confident. The good news is that you do not need to memorize everything perfectly. The best way to improve is simply to keep listening to natural English and noticing how these words are used. Little by little, your brain will begin to recognize patterns. And one day, you will start using these words naturally without thinking too much. Thank you for spending this time with me today. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to follow the podcast and share it with someone who is also learning English. And most importantly, keep listening, keep learning, and keep growing. I'll see you in the next episode.